Alright, y'all. Let's talk about being tired. There's tired and then there's tired. I don't know about y'all, but sometimes I can't tell if I'm stressed out, sleep deprived, or if I'm literally emotionally drained. As some of you know, a couple months ago, I was studying for the MCAT while also experiencing fatigue at my job. And let's just say I experienced a little bit of burnout. And that burnout ended up leading into me having some health issues. I then had to stop my MCAT study and focus on my body, which made me feel even more behind, but you have to do what's best for your body, right? So today we're going to be talking about, is fatigue mental or physical, or both, and what does burnout actually look like in the body? Okay, let's start with the obvious, physical fatigue. This is your body running low on fuel. Think about sleep debt, dehydration, overworking your muscles, or not eating right. When you think about it, pulling an all-nighter and running 5 miles feels completely different, right? But in both cases, your body sends the same signals. You'll start to, your arms feel heavier, you're yawning every 2 seconds. And sometimes we think, oh, I'll grab a cup of coffee or just crash for the day and I'll be fine. And for physical fatigue, yes, that usually works. However, there is another kind of fatigue that usually stops us in our tracks. Because sometimes we sleep for 10 hours a day and still wake up tired. So let's talk about that other type of fatigue. Mental fatigue is sneaky. It's not about your muscles, it's about your mind. So think decision overload, emotional labor, and information overloads. You ever sit down to study and just stare at the page? Or you read one line 10 times and it still just won't click? That's mental fatigue. Your brain actually is burning through a bunch of glucose. And when you feel like you're on 1%, you actually are. Your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that's responsible for focus and making decisions, is literally burning out and shutting down. So what are the signs of mental fatigue? Think about forgetting little things or things that you would normally remember, brain fog, snapping at people, or even just feeling like the smallest task is like climbing Mount Everest. This is literally your brain on overload. Now here's where it gets serious. Burnout. Burnout is when physical fatigue and mental fatigue are constantly stacking up. Scientifically, your body is producing the stress hormone cortisol, and that cortisol is responding to things that aren't necessarily an emergency. High levels of cortisol can result in a weaker immune system. You might experience headaches, light sensitivity, inflammation, or stomach issues. High levels of cortisol for people like me can induce a lupus flare, which is an abundance of other things that we do not have to talk about. For me, my burnout crash came when I actually just stopped enjoying things that I normally enjoy. I just couldn't do them. I couldn't make content. I couldn't talk to people. I felt like everything was just this big drag.
Man, what a drag. This is gonna be such a drag.
Come on, don't say that.
And I started to feel numb. There was no amount of sleep to fix what I felt or to restore me. So how can you come back from this? One, let's put out this myth. Rest is not lazy. Rest is productive. Your body is actually repairing itself every time you just take a rest. Secondly, let's put up some boundaries. Learning to say no is more about self-care than selfishness. And also, fun fact, boundaries are something that you set for yourself. Rules are something that you set for other people. So think about, rather than saying, don't call me after 11, to, I'm not going to respond to your message if you do so after 11. Second part, boundary. First part, rule. It's important to distinguish the two. Thirdly, let's nourish our bodies. Let's start by eating unprocessed foods that actually have nourishment and nutrients to help kickstart our body into fighting off all of that cortisol. Fourth and final, but definitely not least, at least for me, is prayer and journaling. Talking to God, A1, not gonna lie to you. I feel like prayer is definitely what has kept me sane. trying to get into medicine. Because the amount of times that I've wanted to talk to somebody that did not understand what I was giving of myself to chase this dream. Yeah, Jesus, he sat right here and he listened. And he gave me advice. And he pointed me in the right direction. And for that, internally grateful. But it works for me. But I'm just telling you how I got through. So the biggest takeaway from this video is, one, fatigue is physical, is mental, or it can be both. But burnout is in the entire body. If you are watching this at 2 a.m., close your laptop, turn off that TV, and go to bed. Thank you. And remember, taking care of your body is not optional. It is actually survival. Next week, we're going to be talking about how faith and medicine overlap when it comes to rest. So stay tuned for that. And remember, take care of your body and your mind. I will see y'all later. Bye.